Assemblywoman, thanks very much for your time. It is good to see you.
Good to be here, Liz.
And you are actually joining us from outside a shelter, is that correct? Where are you exactly?
Right, I'm at the Binghamton University Event Center. It's acting right now as an evacuation shelter. When this disaster began, there were 1,600 people here, over 150 of them with special needs. Right now, we're down about to a census of about 600.
And you actually established an office inside this shelter?
That's true. I have majority of the people who are staying at the shelter right now are constituents of mine, and we thought it best that some of my staff be here full-time so that we could be in a position to help them with the transition that they're going to need. Obviously, they have a lot of anxiety about what's going to be happening to their homes, and many of them have lost their homes entirely. And as it turns out, the majority of them are renters, and it's a huge concern for us as to where they'll be going from here, and it's not clear what's going to happen next.
Wow. I mean, there are so many things to ask about that. If they are renters, are you worried that they might leave the area entirely? I mean, I don't think that the area would want to lose more population.
We absolutely don't want them to leave the area. Unfortunately, the majority of these people are of low means, and they don't have a lot of contacts or a big support system in the community. So that rental apartment that they had was really, contained all of their possessions and everything in this world that was important to them. And so we're going to be highly challenged not only to find housing for these people who are renters, but also people who have lost their homes, homeowners as well. I mean, in my district alone, I represent the urban core of Broome County, which is the city of Binghamton, Vestal, and the town of Union. 12 whole neighborhoods in my district alone have suffered significant damage. Many homes will wind up being declared uninhabitable at the end of this process.
Wow, simply just not cleanable at all, regardless of how much money might be available from the local, state, and federal government. That's just amazing.
Well, they lost their foundations were washed out, houses came off their foundations, and just when water goes all the way up above the roof, it's really hard to dry it out or to get it out back to a livable condition.
Sure.
We'll know more in the coming days. Some neighborhoods we haven't even been able to get into yet because of the amount of floodwater. Even after so many days, we're still in that condition. Many roads are still unpassable because of that.
We actually saw Senator Schumer in the Capital Region. He was in the Amsterdam area. I understand he was also with you this afternoon, and he is hopeful that there will be FEMA refunding done by Congress, perhaps as early as tomorrow in the U.S. Senate. But there has not yet been a disaster declaration, and this gets a little tricky, but for the southern tier that would let individuals access FEMA money. Is that right? It has not yet come?
Correct. We've all been through this before, back in 2006, and just recently with Hurricane Irene. It generally takes a week from the time that the application is given to when that actual disaster declaration occurs, and we're hoping it will be by Wednesday or Thursday of this week. What happens when we get that declaration is we're immediately able to open up disaster assistance centers across the affected area, not only for people to come and get applications for FEMA assistance, but because of how organized we are with our human service response, they will be able to have a lot of services wrapped around them at one place, so they don't have to go all over to receive assistance for clothing and food and other issues of human service need.
Yeah, I don't want to say that there's anything positive at all going on here, but perhaps it's a little bit tiny sliver of a silver lining that you did go through this in 2006, so you do know what to do now. You're not completely in the dark. Would it be inappropriate to say that?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, almost all the elected officials were in place during 2006. Even our new county executive was very much involved in the coordination of the 2006 flood as well, our executive Pat Brennan. So we feel very confident in the team that we have. Even our human service agencies are being directed by the same people. And we put in place a number of structures leading up to this so that we would be ready in case it happened again. Volunteer organizations, even a rescue program for pets, went right into place and is functioning quite well. So we were ready for it. If there is, as you say, a silver lining, we're certainly prepared and comfortable working with each other and know the questions we need to ask and the resources that we are going to need to get this job done.
And we've actually said a number of times on this show and the general reporting that this is actually far worse in terms of the severity of the storm than in 2006, but at least the mechanism was in place where you were ready. When you do get that FEMA declaration, can renters access that? I'm actually not familiar. I know about homeowners,
yes,
but they can.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Yes. Well, there's a different monetary value. Homeowners can receive, I think the maximum is $30,200 in a FEMA assistance. Then they can also apply for low-interest loans. Unfortunately, some people have loans from 2006, which we hope to consolidate. But individual renters, I believe the assistance grant is something in the order of $5,000, or maybe a little bit less than that. But also there'll be rental assistance and the ability for FEMA to come in and survey available housing to the extent that there is some housing available, and that we can place them in those units. But we may have to ultimately ask for FEMA trailers, as you've seen in Hurricane Katrina.
Wow.
And even back in '06, we had trailers for our residents in Conklin and other neighborhoods as well. So we may wind up being in the FEMA trailer request portion of this sooner than we may expect.
Do you have any feeling, I mean, after 2006, obviously, I mean, and it's really not that terribly long ago when you think about it. We're only in 2011. It's not long at all. But how long does it take before some level of normalcy starts to come back to a community that has been hit with something like this, in your experience?
Well, back then it certainly took months and in some cases years for all of the reimbursements to come back to the governments that were involved. But this year, because of the involvement in the urban core, we have so many, the density is so different, and we have so many more people, especially folks in lower income neighborhoods who are affected, that the needs are far greater. And honestly, this is the area where we seem to be in some new territory. So I think this is going to be a very, very long haul indeed. And we're trying to put all of our community neighbors at notice that we're going to need everyone to come together through these unified portals that we're going to be putting in place, a portal for donations of food and clothing and assistance for helping people clean up their homes. We're very committed to trying to get it easy for people to access.
Yeah.
And it's going to be quite a challenge.
We actually spoke to County Executive Brennan last week, and he and subsequently the governor have been optimistic that there, for the state portion at any rate, that local and state governments would be able to work within the confines of their existing budgets, and that the 2% property tax cap would not be a problem. Are you in agreement with that?
I'm honestly, I have no basis upon which to make that judgment right now because I haven't seen the final assessments of all of the damage that's being done. I'm concerned for our school districts, which you didn't mention.
Right.
One of my school districts lost an entire elementary school, one that in fact just had gone through a beautiful renovation. They're now trying to locate themselves in another place. So I think the school districts, I have to say, are going to be challenged, honestly, sticking with that 2%. Property tax cap. We'll have to see how our municipalities do, but we'll know more when we have the data.
Right. I mean, I know it is a little bit early for that, and I know you're standing in front of a shelter dealing with people's immediate needs, which has to do with health and the welfare of themselves and their family, and their pets and their personal belongings. I did notice actually today in the Binghamton paper that a school has been relocated. I mean, schools just reopened not so terribly long ago. It's the first week of school, and they're holding classes somewhere else. Is that right?
They've had to move, well, they haven't opened yet, but they've had to move to, I believe they're trying to go to an empty Catholic school in our area, and another school in the Owego-Appalachian School District, I believe, is also trying to relocate to a school, I think in Endicott. So we've got schools that have closed, health clinics, major businesses, BAE Systems and Amphenol, two huge employers, employ, I think, between them 2,500 people who we're very worried about. across the board, huge businesses, large, small, medium-sized homes across every sector have been impacted. It's
Wow.
very worrisome.
Assemblywoman, before I let you go, just generally, what's the feeling in the shelter? How are people? Obviously, it's a stressful time, and how are they coping?
You'd be really impressed at the number of Binghamton University nursing students, psychology students, Red Cross, people who have just walked in off the street. People feel very well cared for, I have to tell you. Our community is known for its generosity and really pulling together under stressful circumstances, and I think people really appreciate that and notice how everyone is pulling together. What I'm trying to get